Next, we have file item 3, AB 768. Mr. Thurman. Welcome, Mr. Thurman. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Calderon and Vice Chair Obenalty and members of the committee. Today, first of all, let me start by saying thank you for the opportunity to speak on AB 768, the Tobacco-Free Baseball Act. I'd like to also say right up front that I would be accepting the committee's amendments. By way of context, I would share with you, sadly, as many of you know, last year we lost a baseball giant, Tony Gwynn, who at the age of 54 lost his battle to salivary gland cancer. Mr. Gwynn was very public that he chewed tobacco and that he believed that chewing tobacco was what led to his diagnosis of salivary gland cancer. Another well-known baseball player, a World Series champion pitcher, Curt Schilling, is diagnosed with oral cancer. And he has said that he has chewed tobacco for 30 years and has made the connection, his belief that oral cancer is attributed to his use of chewing tobacco. Many facts to demonstrate the link between smokeless tobacco and cancer. The National Cancer Institute at the National Institutes of Health has said that smokeless tobacco does in fact cause oral cancer, esophageal cancer, pancreatic cancer, and other conditions such as gum disease. As we all know, smokeless tobacco is highly associated with professional baseball. And there's much data to show that, in fact, that association has a tremendous influence on young people. A researcher at the Harvard School of Public Health found that the use of smokeless tobacco by players has a powerful role model effect on youth, particularly amongst young males. With 1/3 of major league players using some form of smokeless tobacco, we know that there is a major and negative impact on youth. AB 768 is focused primarily on tobacco bans in stadiums. This act would reduce the use of tobacco, smokeless tobacco among youth, and would do so by banning in the baseball stadiums in California. We know that there is a tremendous amount of youth of smokeless tobacco by young people. 535,000 kids between the ages of 12 and 17 have used smokeless tobacco and do so for the first time every year. In 2013, 14.7% of high school boys reported current use of smokeless tobacco products. Major League Baseball has supported what we're calling for in this bill. They've written a letter to that effect. They've submitted a press release to that effect. They've written explicitly that they have long supported a ban of smokeless tobacco at Major League Baseball. What this bill would do would essentially put the Major League Baseball organization in line with what's happening in other baseball throughout this nation. As you know, chewing tobacco and smokeless tobacco is banned currently in minor league baseball since 1993, both in the minor leagues and at the college level. AB 768 would send a clear and powerful message to the youth of our state that baseball and smokeless tobacco do not mix. I'm honored today to have two witnesses who are prepared to testify. Tiffany Whitman from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and Dr. Donald Lyman, who is the former chief of the California Department of Health Division of Chronic Disease and Injury Control.
Witnesses, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Tiffany Whiten, representing the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. I just wanted to start by thanking the author for bringing this measure forward. Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids is a leading force in the fight to reduce tobacco use and its deadly toll in the United States and around the world. Our vision is of a future free of the death and disease caused by tobacco. AB 768 will prohibit all tobacco products at baseball stadiums. The widespread use of chewing tobacco remains a serious stain on the game. It puts the health of our players at risk and sets an awful example for young fans who idolize their favorite players and copy their every move. Because young fans idolize and imitate them, baseball players are powerful marketers to our children. Anybody who loves baseball cares about the health of our players, but this is also about the health and the future of our children. Using smokeless tobacco is one thing we don't want kids imitating because it leads to addiction, disease, and even premature death. Even as cigarette use continues to decline among youth, smokeless tobacco use has remained steady. Over the last decade, cigarette use among high school boys has fallen by 25%. But during the same period, there has been no progress in reducing the use of smokeless tobacco. Sadly, baseball is one reason. It is worth noting that the San Diego Padres already prohibit chewing tobacco at Petco Park, including use by fans and vendors. It is important that we knock tobacco out of baseball once and for all, and AB 768 will do just that. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Next witness.
Thank you. Good morning. Good to see you all. I am Dr. Donald Lyman. I am here to represent CMA, the California Medical Association. I'm also chair of our local public health committee for Sacramento County. I'm a former president of the American Cancer Society and recently retired as head of the tobacco control program for the state of California. And I've got good news. Since we have started our tobacco control program in the state, we have done a wonderful job. We have cut the adult smoking rate in the state from about 22% down to about 11%. Concurrently, we have cut the amount of tobacco consumed by about 3/4. And now that we're several years beyond that, the incubation period for what happens that's bad, our cancer rates related to tobacco, lung cancer, things like that, are now down about 25%. Overall, the cancer rate is down about 12%. This is like a vaccine for cancer. It is a wonderful event. And we lead the world in our ability to reduce these smoking rates. We also have one of the smallest, lowest teen uptake rates for tobacco in the nation. So we know how to do this. It's very good. And the message today is that smokeless tobacco is a dangerous part of this mix. It is preferentially moving toward children, and it's time to take another piece of the control action and try to block that kind of access, that kind of encouragement. Smokeless tobacco is dangerous. It causes cancer, and this is documented by international organizations, national organizations, and state of California. Prop 65 Commission on Cancer has declared it to be carcinogens. It also causes heart disease, and you've heard that it causes other things in the body that are not good. It causes adverse outcomes during pregnancy, and it causes lots of bad things in your mouth. Tooth decay, leukoplakia, just bad, bad, bad stuff. Not nice. It is also probably a gateway for children, can lead to smoking and other drugs, other addictive drugs. So this is just a bad package for marketing dangerous stuff to children. The action today is a piece of the control strategy, which would help keep this stuff, keep baseball from being sanctioned to market such a product. So we, California Medical Association, and the others I've mentioned, are in support of this bill, and we encourage you to vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses wish to speak in support? Members of the audience. And if you could, please be as brief as you possibly can.
Mr. Chair and members, Tim Madden, representing the California chapter of the American College of Emergency Physicians and the California chapter of the American College of Cardiology, in strong support.
Hi, Callie Hampt on behalf of the American Heart American Stroke Association, in strong support.
Good morning, Chair and members. Bernadette Ariano, representing the California Children's Hospital Association, in very strong support.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Sawite Seam on behalf of Health Access. We're the statewide consumer advocacy coalition, and we're in support.
Tim Gibbs with the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and we are in strong support.
Hi, Lindsay Freitas with the American Lung Association in California, also in very strong support. Thank you.
Any other members of the audience like to speak in support of this bill? Members in opposition, witnesses in opposition.
Chairman David Quintana on behalf of the Enjoy Corporation. While we don't disagree with the member on the underlying issues that he speaks of on the bill regarding smokeless tobacco and the cause, the harm it may cause to folks, where our opposition is in the definition of tobacco product. Right now, the bill under 4B states tobacco product is any of the following, or it states tobacco product is any of the following, and 4B says electronic device. Facts are facts. There is no combustible tobacco in an e-cigarette. There is none. I could sit up here all day and say I have flowing hair like Chairman Calderon, but at the end of the day, facts are facts, and I'm bald. So the proponents continue to state that this is tobacco, it's tobacco, it's tobacco. It's not tobacco. What we need to do is we need to find a different type of definition to put it in there and quit trying to pigeonhole it into existing definitions such as tobacco. So until the author agrees to change that definition so that, if you want to fit us in there, if you believe that there's some sort of causation to harm, if you want to fit us in there, do so under a different definition and not under tobacco product. So anyway, we would like to work with the author and maybe get a commitment in committee that he's going to do that. But until then, we're going to be opposed and try to kill the bill.
Good morning, Steve Cruz on behalf of the Smoke-Free Alternative Trade Association, and I must apologize. We didn't get a letter submitted. We were just brought on recently. But I would echo the comments of Mr. Quintana. The concern is not with the underlying policy, but a definitional issue that we hope to address. And I did mention it just briefly before the hearing to the Assemblyman, so I didn't give him advance notice, and I wanted to make sure and acknowledge that. But we're hopeful that we can work with him and try to work out some solution here.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition? Members of our audience that would like to speak in opposition to this bill? Right. I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to the committee, see if any of our members have any questions or comments. Yes, Mr. Obelner.
Mr. Thurman, I'm very sympathetic to what you're trying to accomplish here. I have a couple of concerns, though, and these concerns are rooted in my belief that we're a country founded on freedom and personal responsibility. And although I realize sometimes it's necessary to balance that against the needs of society, whenever we're talking about taking away people's freedom, I take that very seriously. So I'm a parent. I have two teenagers. They know that if I catch them chewing tobacco, they're in big trouble. But I question whether or not why we're focusing just on baseball here, because we have lots of sports where the athletes are aspirational role models to our children. So we have football, we have mixed martial arts, we have hockey, we have basketball. Often those athletes live up to the high expectations we have for them, and sometimes they don't, and they're bad role models for our children. So why specifically baseball with this bill?
If I may, through the chair.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Obernolte, for introducing your sons to us in the Assembly yesterday. It was really great to see them on the floor and to see your pride as a father. I just want to make it clear that there is nothing in this bill that intends to limit personal freedom. We're not telling anybody how they should live their life, but we are saying that we value young people and we know that what they see, they often will do. And I can only take from the experiences of young people who I've heard from directly. And this has given me the opportunity to talk with young athletes, as young as 10, who told me how much they love the game and how much they look up to big leaguers, and they want to be just like them. And then they said, they closed with this. They said, I wish that my heroes would instead choose something else, like sunflower seeds, because I don't want to get cancer like those players who I admire. And then I had to think about my own experience. I love baseball, and we played baseball. Even when we didn't have, formal equipment, we played in the street. And we saw big leaguers chewing, and we put anything we could find, wads of gum, whatever it was, in our mouth, because we wanted to look like we were chewing, just like them. So this is not a statement about limiting anyone's personal freedom. This is saying we should acknowledge that kids do what they often see us do. When you watch a baseball game, you asked about other sports, you're right, but when you watch a baseball game, everyone sees a player with a wad in their mouth, and then they spit. And so baseball, for whatever reason, is the most identifiable sport with chewing tobacco. We don't want to limit what anyone does, but we do want to make sure that our kids are safe, and that's the intent of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman.
Thank you, sir.
Any other members of the committee with any questions or comments? Mr. Nazarian.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this measure forward. I completely agree with it. I want to make a motion to move the bill forward. In fact, at some point I was interested to ask the doctor to make some comments about smokeless tobacco issues given the opposition we heard, but at this point I don't think it's even necessary. So I just would ask that we move forward with this measure.
I think we do have a motion, and we have a second. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we're going to go ahead and let you close. Before you close, just a couple questions or just mostly thoughts from me that maybe you can address in your close. I know we're specifically focusing here, at least this testimony, on Major League Baseball. However, in the bill, it seems that the language tends to be very broad, that it's just not stadiums and Major League Baseball, but in parks, adult rec leagues, private businesses such as a batting cage, and it impacts all baseball players and all persons in the same physical space. So, I mean, it does seem that the bill isn't just specific to, it's specific to baseball, but not necessarily specific to Major League Baseball players. And the only other concern that I would have is when it comes to the collective bargaining agreement between the players and the Major League Baseball, what we can do, because these contracts are collectively bargained and specifically states in those contracts where they can and can't chew and when they can and can't chew. And it also does affect those that are not even baseball players within the stadium, say those that are working in the back that are just members of the staff. If they're in the back, they also seem to be affected by this bill. My thoughts on this were, yeah, okay, so maybe there are some things that we need to work on, some definitional issues with regards to this bill. But overall, I think that what this bill is trying to accomplish is moving us in the right direction when it comes to these issues. And I think that this is a conversation worth continuing, but just wanted to give you those thoughts, and maybe there are some things that you can address with regards to those issues in your statement, and then also going forward, assuming that the bill has support of this committee. But at this time, I'd like to allow you to make your closing statements.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughtful questions, Mr. Calderon. As it relates to collective bargaining, we've actually reached out to the Players Association directly, and we offered to go to spring training and hang out with them and have this conversation.
And it was all for them, right? It was all for them.
As you can see, I'm here, not there, because we love baseball, and that's a tough conversation, right? But what we've been told from the association is they appreciate our willingness to have a conversation, and I would say the same in regard to Mr. Quintana's remarks. And while I cannot refute his irrefutable statement that he doesn't have long flowing hair, we're willing to sit down with anybody and have a conversation. I don't want to nitpick at definitions, but I do want to say if something has the ability to have a negative influence on young people or not, let's keep it out of their view. What adults choose to do is always going to be their business, and I don't want to violate those personal freedoms. So as it relates to collective bargaining, we fully support that, but we're having the conversation with the Players Association. They've agreed to talk with us about it, even though it's a difficult conversation. As it relates to in other parts of the stadiums, we also view these ballparks as workplaces. There's 5 stadiums in California. These are places where we work, and the law has established a precedent about what we will and won't allow in a workplace, even in a park. Right? The law says that there cannot be smoking in parks and playgrounds. And so we're not trying to go beyond what the law has already established. We're simply trying to send the message and being very intentional about having a message about what we don't want young people to see and the habits that we don't want them to develop. So with that, I want to thank you for being willing to hear us out today, and we look forward to ongoing conversation, and I would respectfully urge and ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman. The motion is due pass to GO. Secretary, you may call the roll.
Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Obernolte?
No.
Obernolte, no. Chu?
Aye.
Chu, aye. Hadley?
No.
Hadley, no. Levine? Medina? Nazarian?
Aye.
Nazarian, aye.
You have 3 aye votes. You need 4. The bill is on call. And we will remain open, waiting for other members to show up.
We'll remain open and on call, too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.